Hey, everybody. Happy Friday night. Thanks for watching. I'm Anjanette Levy, and thanks for tuning in and being here with me. Uh, Remember to hit subscribe, like, share, do all of that good stuff. And if you happen to be watching on replay, which a lot of people do, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Subscribe and share, like, all of that good stuff to help my little channel. So we are going to be talking about the Idaho 4 case tonight, and a lot of new filings that were filed, a lot of paper flying around the courthouse there in Boise, Idaho this week. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot. We learned a lot. A lot of what's happened in this case, and I've complained about it quite a bit, has been filed under seal. Judge Hippler has put a stop to that. Some stuff is still being filed under seal when it needs to be. I mean, some stuff has to be filed under seal, and we understand that. We don't like it, but it has to be. And that's just that's the breaks. Medical stuff, that type of stuff has to be filed under seal. Some of the expert disclosure stuff has to be filed under seal. We don't like it, but that's the way it is. But Judge Hippler told both sides a couple of weeks ago, knock it off, quit filing everything under seal. Not everything needs to be filed under seal. You know better. And, so they've stopped. And so because of that, we have learned a lot. And so one of the things we've learned a lot this week has to do with Bryan Kohberger's Amazon account. So I'm going to get to that really quickly. But first of all, I want to thank some of the people who are watching right now. Blagika, I hope I'm saying that right. And Angel Kovska. I feel like I just butchered that, so I apologize. I try to be really good about names since I have a really long name. Is watching from Macedonia, so that's wild. Thank you so much. It's past midnight there. Maui Girl says aloha. Aloha to you. Thank you for watching from Hawaii. Real happy. Gives 2 pink hands. Appreciate that. Thanks for watching. And Dolphin says, don't forget to like the stream. I liked it on the way in. Thank you so much, Dolphin 517. I appreciate that. Taya Toys, who I figured out last week when Bob called you Phil. Phil, yes, I'm sparkling. Just really briefly, there is a story about this top. I saw it online and I really liked it. It's just a t-shirt. It's literally a t-shirt with sequins on it. And I liked it and I thought it was fun and I bought it and I actually wear it to work. Probably shouldn't, but I do. And it makes me happy. So I wear it. So I'm wearing it. So thanks a lot. I am totally blinging out on Friday. So I only wear it though on Fridays. I only wear sequins to work on Fridays. I feel like that's the only day it's appropriate to wear sequins to work. So there you go. So anyway, I'm going to go by and go through and say hello to other people too. The docket always tuning in, which I really appreciate. Thank you so much. CH is always tuning in as well. And somebody said, Bethany W said, ready for all the dirt. Well, I'm going to try to get to all the dirt. Law and Crime Network says, Anjanette. Well, thank you very much, Law and Crime Network, for watching. I appreciate it. Remember to hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff to help my little teeny tiny channel here. So we're going to not probably get through all of the dirt tonight because there's a lot of it. The tea, I guess, as the kids say, they spill the tea these days. There's a lot. So there's a lot. I mean, I have read most of it and I swear I could probably talk about it for days. And there are still other things, guys, that every time I get on here, I think I'm going to get through everything and then I never do. There are still other things I still haven't gotten to that I wanted to talk to you guys about that I still haven't gotten to. So there are probably going to be a few more of these that we're going to do on all of this. But first of all, let's take a moment. Beautiful Messy Ball just got in. Hi, everyone. Hi, Beautiful Messy Ball. Alessi Never Sleeps says, hey, back to you. Let's just take a moment, as always, because as I've mentioned before, this case is incredibly sad, as all homicide cases are. This one is particularly senseless and terrible. I struggle to find the words to describe, um, how bad it is, because there's just, there was no reason for this to happen. There are people in the comments who say other things when I say this, and that's just not the opinion that I share. I find this to be one of the most senseless things I have covered. And I think we should always take time whenever we talk about this case to remember Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana, 4 college kids who went to a football game, hung out, took this picture, and are now forever frozen in time. This is how they are known to the world. Certainly not how they are known to their families. They are known in so many more ways than this picture represents, but this is how they are known to the world. And it's just so sad that they took this photo. They were having the time of their lives. They went out to the homecoming game, hung out at the Sigma Chi house. Maddie and Kaylee went to the corner club. I'll have to tell you guys about my trip to the corner club one of these days. When I was in Moscow, it didn't go very well. The guy was fine, but he did not want to talk to me. But I'll tell you about that another time. But they went to the corner club, and within a couple of hours of getting home, they had been murdered, and there was no reason for it. So I think we always have to take time to remember them. So I just felt like we should take a moment. Maui Girl, thank you so much. Maui Girl says justice for KM, X, and E. So there they are, and that is what this case is about. But now this case has turned to the trial and the courts, and when that happens, the focus turns to the defendant. And so the focus now is on Bryan Kohberger and his attorney's efforts to ensure that his rights are defended. The focus is on the evidence. And so that's where we are going to now turn to discuss the latest happenings. And let's go now to the filings. So I'm going to get right into this. I'm going to share my screen. I got a lot to talk to you guys about, so I'm trying to pull the right one up here. We're going to talk about Amazon first. I know that's what you guys... Oh, wrong one. Wrong one. When they all say state's response, it's hard to tell which one is which. All right. Yes, I think this is it. Here we go. State's response to the defense wanting to exclude Bryan Kohberger's Amazon click activity. So when I first started seeing the defense filing motions about this, I thought to myself, okay, is this about the knife? I don't know if it's about the knife or not, because Bryan Kohberger gets arrested on December 30th, 2022. We see the probable cause affidavit, talks about bushy eyebrows, which we might get to tonight. I did the crime fix on that today. I should put that in the chat so you guys can watch that. Talked a lot about DM and the bushy eyebrows today. But it talked about the bushy eyebrows. It talked about the Hyundai Elantra. It talked about Bryan Kohberger and his DNA on the K-bar knife sheath. We saw nothing in the probable cause affidavit about Amazon, about whether Bryan Kohberger owned a K-bar knife. And that's due in part to the fact that they got Bryan Kohberger's name from the FBI on December 19th. The probable cause document was filled out on the 29th. That's when it was signed, and he was arrested the next day. So this Amazon stuff didn't come up until after that. And of course, there was the gag order that the state agreed to with the defense a day or two later. So basically, there was like, we get nothing, right? We get nothing. Bill Thompson said at the press conference announcing the arrest that we will share with you information. We will, through court documents, you will learn more, and this, that, and the other, and we will do all of this. Well, then, boom, he agrees to a gag order, and we get nothing. Nobody talks. Nobody says anything. They had been more forthcoming, and then everything shuts down. We knew that a search warrant had been served on Amazon, but of course, everything was sealed. So we were like, okay, they don't want his Amazon stuff in. What's going on with Amazon? Why is Ann Taylor so upset about Amazon? We don't know, because everything's filed under seal. So there's this huge document dump earlier this week with the courts, and the state responds to Ann Taylor's motion wanting to exclude the Amazon click activity. And in Ann Taylor's motion, she said, well, Amazon, this was a shared account. It was a family account. And so also, AI can like influence what pops up. And so this is not reliable. And there's this guy from Amazon. He's not really an expert under the Idaho rules of evidence, and he's going to testify. So we have an expert who says basically this stuff is like not that great and it's flawed. Well, this is about the click activity is about what you might click on. So like, take note, guys, my Amazon account, everything you click on, click, 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 I click on it. Amazon knows there is going to be a record of that. There's a digital footprint of all of that stuff. So, when she's talking about click history and click activity, she made it sound almost like it was like anything he clicked on, and any ad that popped up. You know how it's like you're in the car talking to somebody about lipstick, and then all of a sudden 20 minutes later you get an ad on Facebook and it pops up that's like lipstick on your Facebook or whatever. Like that's what she made it sound like in her motion. Well, the state responds and says, no, this stuff's reliable. And on page 5, you had to really read this. I'm literally reading this the other night, and I'm like, wow, you guys really buried the lead. Okay, so here we get to page 5 with these prosecutors. I was like, I'm literally sitting on my couch reading this, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Bryan Kohberger's Amazon.com click activity is relevant and admissible. Under Idaho Rule of Evidence 401, evidence is relevant if it has a tendency to make a fact more or less probable than it would be without the evidence, and the fact is of consequence in determining the action. IRE 401. Defendant appears to argue that the evidence of defendant's Amazon.com click history is not relevant. That is not the case. A K-bar knife sheath with a USMC logo was found next to one of the victims at 1122 King Road. The defendant's DNA was found on the K-bar knife sheath found on scene. Applying the test for relevancy first, Kohberger's click activity, which shows a purchase of a K-bar knife and sheath before the homicides, makes it more probable than it would be without the evidence that the K-bar sheath found at the crime scene was Bryan Kohberger's. Second, Bryan Kohberger's click activity after the homicides makes it more probable than it would be without the evidence that Kohberger had a reason to search for a K-bar knife and sheath after the homicides. These facts are of consequence to determining whether Bryan Kohberger committed the homicides at 1122 King Road, the central question before the jury. This evidence is clearly relevant. So Dateline reported this a while back. They were quoting a source as saying that Bryan Kohberger had purchased the K-bar knife on Amazon. Everybody's like, where are they getting this? Where are they getting this? Who told them this? So they had a source. It was a good source. We now know it was a good source. Everybody's like, who told them that? Where did they get that? It's not, we knew they had subpoenaed or done a search warrant for Amazon, but we didn't know what came back. So somebody close to the case, somebody gave them the info, and it was correct, according to the prosecution. So what's interesting is there's a footnote related to this. The defendant argues that Amazon's recommendation system influences what users see and click on. But this purported use of AI technology is not relevant. Even if an algorithm might suggest certain products to a customer, the algorithm would not cause a customer to repeatedly and over the course of several days browse web pages related to K-bar knives, sharpeners, and sheaths. Wow. So they're saying this is relevant, it's reliable, and the jury should see it. So when I read that the other night, I literally went back and made sure I was not misreading it to ensure that I did read it properly, because I was like, wait, are they speaking hypothetically? They're not speaking hypothetically. They're saying he bought it. So I read it like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, I'm making sure I'm just, triple, quadruple, quintuple checking that I didn't misread that. And then I went back up here, and it says that basically they didn't go on a fishing expedition. The state narrowly tailored a search warrant for evidence regarding the crimes of homicide or burglary. This included temporal limitations based on the officer's investigation, which limited the search from March 20th, 2022 through March 30th, 2022. This was the time it was known that Bryan Kohberger purchased a K-bar knife with sheath and sharpener. Like, what the heck? A sharpener? I I get it. I have a knife sharpener in my kitchen. I get it. But that just freaks me out. And so he bought the knife and the sharpener, the knife with the sheath and the sharpener sometime between March 20th and March 30th. I would like to know how they knew that. Like, who told them that? Somebody with knowledge of that had to have known that. So was it somebody in his family who shared the Amazon account? Did somebody in his family, because there were rumblings that somebody in his family during that Christmas holiday was like, what the heck? Like, he's acting weird. He's running around with gloves on. He's got a white car. He's parking it in the garage. He's being weird. And he lived near where this happened. And they were getting really weirded out and freaked out. And it may have been one of his sisters, is what, the buzz is. And so, did one of these people tell the investigators, did they go into the shared family account and say, my God, he has one of these big knives? Like, how else would they have known to get the warrant for these dates? And then they said, November 1st through December 6th, time right before and after the homicides. Oh, wait, sorry. They got the warrant from November 1st through December 6th. It was the time right before and after the homicides. They got the click history for that too. So he was searching after the homicides too. So why was he doing that? Was it because, the defense could say, well, it's his knife. Somebody took his knife and it was gone, and he wanted to know what the heck went on, and he wanted a new one. Or the state might say, well, he wanted to replace it in case anybody came looking for it. Or state might say he's gonna do it again. That's really scary. All right, I'm gonna look at some of your comments. I'm going to scroll back up and see what everybody's having to say, because I feel like I just threw a lot at you and talked for a really long time. Crime and crochet. Hello to you too. Like, let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. So sorry. Yeah, you do want to see the documents. I apologize. Sorry, Maui girl. Okay. I'm looking to see what everybody has to say about this. Hello, Lindsay. Hey. Dolphin 517 says that yes, the defense is going to need some very creative storytelling skills to explain that one. I'm even going to go as far to say that he won't be able to produce that knife. Right. So here's the deal. And Dolphin 517 says he either lost it or it was stolen. Exactly. Because the defense, and I talked about this today on Crime Fix with Mark Weaver, who's a great prosecutor, or like he's a special prosecutor in Ohio. He's super smart, and he does a lot of he has done death penalty cases, and it's like they're gonna, yeah, the defense can say we have no burden. Of course we have no burden. It's not our burden, but the jury's, you're gonna have to tell the jury a story. What happened to Bryan Kohberger's K-bar knife? Where did it go? What happened to it? I mean, they're gonna have to say either that he sold it to some guy somewhere, somebody stole it, maybe he leaves his car unlocked, and this is something he kept with him. I mean, why was he even buying this thing? He's a criminology student. I don't know why people buy K-bar knives. Um, Joseph Scott Morgan told me it's the K-bar means kill a bear. I mean, this is a killing knife. This is a fighting, killing knife. This is not a, cut up an apple on the back porch kind of knife. I mean, this thing is huge. And in fact, I'm going to show you how big this thing is. So, Busby Ford says, does Bryan's family come to see him? I have no idea. That's a long way. Good question. Beautiful messy ball. They did seize knives from his parents' house when they executed the search warrant. But did they seize a K-bar? I mean, are these hunting people? I don't know that. So it's a good thing to know. Dolphin 517. Don't forget that there was an investigative grand jury in PA. RE the Dana Smithers and his parents were called before that grand jury. Yeah, and I'm still not 100% clear on that. I mean, because we know there was a federal grand jury too. We know that. In this case, there was a federal grand jury in the Idaho case. So because the FBI did some or the feds did a federal grand jury, and there was some investigation with this case. That whole Dana Smithers or the Dana Smithers case, I was still unclear about that, about why the Kohbergers, the parents, and I'm still unclear, because they could have, if the parents were called to testify in front of that grand jury, it could have been as simple as the grand jury wanted to hear from them because they had heard about Kohberger and they wanted to, because the grand jury can subpoena witnesses. They could have said, yeah, we want to hear from them. We want to know where Bryan Kohberger was at the time of this crime. It could have just been to investigate that, to look into that lead, or to look into that to see if there was any connection. So, I mean, I don't think that there was any connection there, but I'm not in a position to say that either, because I remembered making a lot of calls about that when that whole thing came out. Melissa Dotson says, hunters buy K-bar knives. Knife enthusiasts buy knives. He is neither of these. It doesn't appear so. Oh, Beautiful Messy Ball says she believes the knives were seized from the room at his parents' house. I'm going to have to look at that search warrant return again. I think that's the one that had the horrible handwriting that's like impossible to read. Right. Dolphin 517 says there were other federal warrants for Bryan. Yeah, there were a lot of federal search warrants and stuff like that because of the federal grand jury. And I'm still unclear about that. Somebody said it was about potential stalking, but I don't know. Yeah, SW Firefly says number 1 on warrant return from his parents' house was just knife, so it was unknown if it was a K-bar, right. Blajika and Angelkovska, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. It's crazy to think he had so much background in criminology and investigation to do all this, but can be easily tracked. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like, you know, he's innocent until proven guilty. So let's say Bryan Kohberger, you know, that he did this. Let's say that he did this. He obviously was not planning to get caught. So was the sheath left there if he did this? If he indeed is factually the person who did this, did he leave it there on purpose? Was it a mistake? Was it a big mistake? Some people have suggested this was going to be a calling card, a signature, the sheath, leaving it there. I just don't think I don't agree with that. I think it was a big mistake. He was surprised by Kaylee being there. And that DNA, um, that was how they got to him. Now they're going to say it was transfer, or could have been transferred onto there, planted, whatever the defense is going to say. Sorry, I'm reading all your stuff, guys. All right. So K-bar knives on Amazon. I decided to look into that. And so I've been thinking about buying a K-bar knife for a long time. Not because I actually want a K-bar knife. I have no use for a K-bar knife, but because of this case. And I've hesitated to do it because, I don't need it, but I feel like it's part of this case and I should get one because it's part of this case and I'm covering it. And that's what you do when you cover a case. You kind of dive into it so that you can show people things and look into things. And so here is a K-bar knife on sale on Amazon. $93. It's kind of pricey. But I guess this is they're even more expensive if you go on the K-bar website. Melissa says, I'm going to start hunting. No, not so much. So yeah, I am not going to start hunting anytime soon. So let's talk about, first of all, going on Amazon. So I've clicked a lot on K-bar knives on Amazon. So my click history would be really weird. It would not look great. So here it is. Beautiful Messy Ball says devil's advocate, or it was someone who responded to one of his surveys and he was working with that, put it there and set him up going along with Ann Taylor's theory. Again, devil's advocate. Yeah, but guess what? That survey was at DeSales. The survey wasn't at Washington State. So, I mean, that would have to be somebody traveling all the way across the country, and they'd have to have access to his DNA and his K-bar knife sheath. I don't know. CH says all of our histories are a minefield. I know. Like if somebody ever got a hold of my computer, I mean, at least with my job, I'm always searching crazy stuff. But with my job, people would be like some forensic computer guy would be like, what the hell is she doing? Like I could just see them. And actually it's probably like pretty mundane compared to what half these people see on their, daily basis. Oh, Beautiful Messy Ball says, it was my understanding, though, that he was still continuing his study. Maybe he was. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's true. I don't know. It'd be nice if they would drop this silly little gag order. That's really annoying. So, Mott Senoj says, will cameras be allowed during trial? That's a really good question, because Judge Hippler hasn't made that decision yet. It's in an order. He said right now he's allowing the Zoom stuff, which I'm grateful for that he's allowing that. Maybe he'll allow that during the trial, but he has not made a decision about whether or not the cameras will be allowed in a trial. He has not made that decision. So we shall see. Let's hope. Because we know there will be a lot of graphic evidence in this case. I mean, the crime scene photos alone will be terrible. We're going to have witnesses like the surviving roommates who have been harassed and have been subjected to a lot of, mistreatment online and stuff like that. They could just not show them if they don't want to be on camera. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope that they do allow it to be streamed. So they're like during the Murdaugh trial, they had cameras in there and they just had a really good way of doing it so that the graphic stuff was not shown. I thought it worked really well. Sorry, guys. I just need a little bit of water. So anyway, let's get to the K-Bar knife. So here's a K-Bar knife on sale on Amazon for $93. It's even more on the K-Bar website. I went on eBay and I was like, maybe I can find one for like $45, right? I'll bid on one. Well, that didn't work. I'm like, because I wanted to get the whole knife, but truly, I didn't really want the knife in my house. Okay, I don't need this giant knife in my house. I kind of want it so I can show it and so we can like talk about it, because I think it's important to understand things, to be able to see it, show it, that type of thing. Webby says you're being raided right now, Aunt Jeanette Levy. God, could you imagine? Oh my God. You know what? I'd be like, okay, give me the search warrant and I'm calling a lawyer. That's what I would do if somebody raided my house. So anyway, I've been looking at one of these for a while. And so I on streams. Well, guess what? I'm not going to show. Okay, so I'll take this down. I didn't know that. This is an advertisement though. So I'll take this down. So anyway, I've been looking at this for a while and I did not spend the $93 on the K-Bar knife. However, I did place an order on Amazon. This is how it arrived. Okay. This is how it arrived. So I actually ordered this earlier this week and it arrived coincidentally, either the day before or can't remember. It was like right before all the big document dump. So it arrived just in time. So I ordered the sheath. Okay. So here is the sheath. So say that, say I'm Bryan and I'm not, say you're Bryan Kohberger and you ordered this thing. I don't know how. I'm assuming the knife and the sheath would have come in a separate packaging. Maybe the knife comes in a box. But the sheath, definitely, I only ordered the sheath and it came this way. This is how it came. So look at how it comes. It comes wrapped like this in plastic. It's got the K-Bar barcode thing on it. It's got some K-Bar sticker thing. And it's like in this plastic bag thing. So we're going to take it out of here. I've already used this on Crime Fix, but I thought I should put it back to show you guys how it arrived. So it came in this plastic. It comes out really easily. And it's when I took it out the other night and it was in the plastic bag, I was a little startled. I'm not going to lie to you when I took it out. When I just holding the plastic bag and seeing it, I was like, oh my God, it was much bigger than I thought it would be. And so this is where, yeah, Stern KB says, imagine trying to defend yourself against a blade that large. I know. Look at this. Like when Mark Weaver and I were talking today, he was like, hold that before we started recording. Cause I was like, look, I don't want you to be startled, but I'm going to be using this during our talking. So I wanted to warn him that I had it. And so Mark was like, that thing's bigger than your head. And I was like, I know. And so this is where, when we first read about this case in the probable cause, it felt like the DNA was found here, but it wasn't, because they wanted to examine this at the lab for prints. So they didn't swab this for DNA. The DNA was found, like here, like on these part, like this part, this under here. So think about that. You'd have to like his DNA ended up here on this stuff. So Leah Schmid says justice for Kohberger. He is 100% innocent. Okay. Leah, I would like you to put in the chat your thoughts on I want to know what you think about him having a knife from a K-bar knife sheath and sharpener and knife, the whole shebang, from Amazon. I'd like to know about that. And him ordering it in March and then it being found under Maddie with his DNA on this underside part. This is what the state says. And how do you think the defense is going to counter that? I'd like to hear that from somebody who believes Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Everybody's welcome here. So I want to hear what you all think. So anyway, I ordered this. Here it is. And this is what they said was found under Maddie and next to Maddie. And there was apparently a blood mixture on this as well, from what the DNA analyst said. Yeah, Crypto Catherine says that sheath is huge. I wonder at what point the killer realized he left it at the scene. Spruced and Gussied says, off topic, Anjanette, I love your Pope Francis plush in the background. Thank you. I got that in 2015. That's just a memento. I'm not Catholic, but I got that when I was covering the Pope in Philadelphia when I worked at WKRC in Cincinnati, which is a whole nother story. I'll tell you guys the story one day of how I got to actually do that. That was a funny story, but that was a great experience. I really wanted to do that and I got to do it. It was cool. So here we go. So this is what I ordered off Amazon. This was like $19, which I was kind of surprised by. But yeah, it's huge. Look at that. It's big. It's big. And so I guess you're supposed to like put your belt through that, right? Busby Ford said WKRP, right? Like I've never heard that one before. But that's you're supposed to put that, like you could put that, like say you had a belt and you could put it there, but that's not what happened. So yeah, this is it. And so there was a blood mixture on here, and they had swabbed apparently the leather strap, they said. So when I read the DNA stuff, I don't know if they mean here and here, but it makes you wonder, like, it was single source. For those of you who may not have seen my interview with Kristen that I played on here last week, Kristen said the 0.186 nanograms per microliter that they say was found on here, on the underside of the snap thing, the snap thing, it's a very technical term. She said that was a good amount of DNA. So let's talk now about the DNA. Rylene Nolan, the crime lab boss or whatever, DNA lady from Idaho. She has the defense doesn't want her using the terms. The defense does not want her using the terms touch DNA or contact DNA, saying she's not qualified to say when DNA was left on an item. And so, nobody probably can say when DNA was left on an item, right? Of course, I pulled up the wrong thing again. This is why I need somebody to help me with this. Every time you think you have them in order, they get like mixed up. I'm trying to find her thing. Okay, here we go. Oh, I pulled up the wrong thing. So they don't want her saying, I pulled up the wrong thing. I'll pull it up really fast. So the defense doesn't want her testifying about touch and contact DNA. The defense filed all this stuff saying, there are all different kinds of transfer DNA. I mean, there's just so much. There's like direct transfer, and then there's like secondary transfer, and then there's like all these other kinds of transfer, and they showed all these diagrams of the different types of transfer. I mean, it was like DNA can go like transfer from one item to this item and that item. And I mean, it was just like all this stuff. So they're like, no, she's not qualified to testify to that. Well, now Rylene Nolan's like, oh, but guess what? I am qualified to do that. And here's an affidavit saying why I am. So I'm going to pull up Rylene Nolan's affidavit for you so you can see what Rylene Nolan has to say about all this. So Rylene Nolan, she's the lab manager of the Idaho State Police lab down there in the Boise, Idaho area. And she talks about, she's kind of backing up what Kristen said last week when I played that part of that interview for you guys. And she's saying the phrase touch DNA is widely used in the forensic DNA community and was used in Dr. Ruth Ballard's expert witness disclosure for this case when referring to the DNA on the knife sheath. It is typically used to describe DNA collected from items of evidence in areas on the item that would most likely be touched by the user of that item. The term trace DNA implies amount. The word trace is defined as a very small amount and is used in the scientific literature when describing evidence samples with low amounts of DNA that do not yield a profile or only a partial profile. I would not be willing to use that term, and it would be inappropriate to apply that term to the DNA on the knife sheath because a trace amount of DNA is not what was detected on item 1.1, and referring to it as trace DNA would be misleading to the trier of fact. So you have Kristen from last week, for those of you guys who saw that. Kristen, who ran a DNA lab for a long time, and she no longer does, but she said that the 0.186 nanograms per microliter was what she would call a good amount of DNA. And now this Rylene Nolan is saying she would not call this trace DNA. So she's saying it's not a trace amount. So it's kind of, I thought that was super interesting. What do you guys think about that? And remember, like and subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Would really appreciate it. Tayo Toys says, my neighbor has an Elantra. It's not a Sonata. Well, I drove a Hyundai Elantra when I was at the Murdoch trial in South Carolina. They gave me a black Hyundai Elantra at the rental car counter in Charleston. I was like, really? Seriously? Is this all you got? Like, I really didn't want to drive it. It was when I'd come back from, I think I'd been back from Idaho for a few weeks, and then I was off to South Carolina, which was super nice because guess what? It was warm in February in South Carolina, and I loved it. Leo Schmidt, I'm going back up to find the rest of your comments. Leah Schmid said, is there any proof 2 knife sheath matches or he lost a sheath? I don't know. I don't know. So that was Leah Schmid's comment. Is there any proof 2 knife sheath matches or he lost a sheath? I don't know. We don't know if they've if they found his sheath, but we do know they're saying he bought one. It's a shared family account, but we don't know if we're assuming he received it. They're saying he purchased it. Even if you share an account, like my sister and I shared my Amazon account for years, I can still, even though we share the account, I select my name. We don't share it anymore, but I would select my name and my address. So Harlot Oscara says, I wonder if he left the sheath on purpose, thinking he'd fully cleaned it. It makes 0 sense to bring that giant sheath in without securing it to a belt, and that leather isn't going to rip. Right. Well, this leather is definitely not going to rip. And so is somebody who's going in to commit a homicide, and I don't believe the person who went in to commit this homicide went in intending to kill 4 people. I simply don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. And going in there anyway was super high risk. I mean, you're going into a house full of people at 4 something in the morning. And if you went in and you're carrying it, like, my God, like, what? It's just really insane. Let's see. I'm going through your other comments. Is it proven that, if Leah Schmid asks, is it proven that was Amazon sheath in 1122 or BK lost a sheath? I mean, we don't know. We just know that the state is saying that he bought a K-bar knife and sheath and sharpener in March of 2022, and that Bryan Kohberger's DNA, they're saying, the state was found on the snap of a K-bar sheath found next to Maddie Mogan. And that's just one piece of circumstantial evidence, coupled with a white sedan driving around the area around the area of the house at the time of the homicides. I'm scrolling up, guys, looking at more of your comments. Okay, so let's move on from that, and I'm going to put the sheath away. Because let's say Bryan Kohberger, this was his sheath, and somebody took it, or he sold it to somebody. He needed some cash, so he sold his sheath to somebody and his knife. Like, oh, I'm short on some cash. I know I put this thing up for sale, or somebody got into my apartment. Somebody was in my car. I leave my car unlocked. I mean, it only had, this is how it came packaged. So it's, how are these handled in the factory? It'd be interesting to know, because there's only one person's DNA on it. And they're saying he's like super fastidious about cleaning, and he's OCD and with the autism and all of that. Like, did he clean it a lot? I don't know. So there's a lot we still don't know. All right, so we can get rid of the Amazon stuff. And then I was actually planning to have somebody on here to talk with me tonight, but they got hung up in some traffic. So that did not happen. Okay, so I kind of wanted to move on now to the autism stuff because I thought that was pretty interesting. Harlotte Oscara asked, did I get the K-bar too or just the sheath? No, I just got the sheath. I didn't buy the knife too. I just was like, I don't really want to buy the knife. So I just didn't really want to buy the knife. So, okay, guys, remember we talked on here a couple of weeks ago, and remember to like and subscribe. And if you're watching on replay, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Oh, you know what we should get to really quickly, actually, before I get to the autism, is the bushy eyebrows. What was I thinking? The other big news is the bushy eyebrows. So DM, the surviving roommate, as we all know, she described the man walking through the house, carrying an object, state says now in a new filing. She says that this person, sorry, I'm pulling it up now. This person, she couldn't identify him, but that he had bushy eyebrows. And now the state is like revealing a lot of information about what DM said in her various police interviews. And so it's pretty darn interesting. And of course, I just pulled up the wrong thing. Here we go. Sorry, guys. I had this all pulled up and ready to go. It's like your best laid plans, right? Okay, Phil, I have to find out your true identity because you're kind of cracking me up. Oh my God. All right. Hilarious. Okay. Okay, so here's everything that basically DM said. So DM, she apparently, we're learning now, aside from texting with BF, the other surviving roommate, Bethany, it sounds like they had BF and DM, they spoke before this texting started taking place. And they had two short phone conversations, 24 seconds and 41 seconds. That's why when you read the text messages, when BF says Xana was wearing all black, it's because more than likely DM said to Bethany, there was a guy in all black, during one of those phone calls. And so that's why she's saying Xana was wearing all black. She's thinking, you've got to be confused. Xana was wearing black. It was Xana, something like that. So the 911 call gets placed at 11:13 or 11:56 a.m. on November 13th. And there's some new information that's come out too about the roommates texting activity. They were on social media, talking to mom and dad. I mean, there was more than what the state initially released. So at 12:09 p.m., 13 minutes after the 911 call, the cops are there. And on the 911 call, Dylan she's trying to tell the call taker, at 4 a.m. she's trying to tell them what happened, and they're like, no, just tell me what happened. Like, I need to know what's going on right now. The 911 call taker's like, I got to get help there now. She told Officer Nunez that she saw a male who was not insanely tall, wearing all black, and a mask that was just covering his forehead and mouth. Later, DM repeated the description. He was a little bit taller than me. I couldn't really see much of him. And I'm almost positive he was wearing a full black outfit, and he had this mask that was just over his forehead and his mouth. DM gave the description a third time, repeating he had a mask. He was an inch or two taller than her, and he was basketball player, kind of skinny, and he had a voice she didn't recognize. Let's see. DM reported that this is like more than an hour later, 1:47 p.m. She talks to Detective Mowry. She said that she saw a white male she didn't know, maybe my height, a few inches taller, skinny, athletic built, wearing all black, wearing this mask that covers just his forehead and here. So she's obviously gesturing. She said, I'm 5'10", so he's probably around 6 feet. I don't remember what his eyes looked like either. I didn't recognize his eyes, but he's definitely a white guy. So then on November 17th, she's talking to these other detectives, Detective Gooch from Idaho State Police, and then Sergeant Dustin Blaker. She gave a detailed recounting of what she did on Saturday, November 12th. And then this interview, like 4 days after the homicides, she talks about how she heard the male's voice that she didn't recognize, and the male says, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And she opened her door and saw someone, because from my mind, it's like I was almost wearing these blurry glasses, like it's fuzzy and cloudy, but it was like a figure or of someone wearing all black. And it was like they had a ski mask that was covering their forehead and their chin and mouth. But I could see, all I remember was seeing their eyebrows. And I don't remember what their eyes looked like, but I remember their eyebrows. I don't remember the color the eyebrows were. I just remember like bushy eyebrows. That's all I could think about. So the eyebrows are what stood out to her. Again, she described the male. I know he looked at me because I could see his eyebrows. I just saw one eyebrow. I don't know why or how. DM recounted calling and texting her roommate BF, and she discussed with BF that there was someone in the house wearing all black and a ski mask. She conveyed to the interviews that the facts didn't fully make sense to her, and she didn't know how to explain everything. Detective Gooch explained to DM that the important thing was to tell only the things that she knew were true, and that was the most important. And she agreed. DM agreed with that. So she remembers his eyebrows. That's all she remembers was eyebrows. I don't know. They asked her if she knew what a balaclava was. So look at this, guys. She says it's not like a regular ski mask. So look at this. I got kind of curious because there's a purchase from there's some purchases that the state wants to admit from Bryan Kohberger. And one of them is from Under Armour. And I have no idea if this is what he purchased, but there are purchases from Under Armour and Dick's Sporting Goods from June of 2022. And the state wants to admit these purchase records from Bryan Kohberger and they just want to introduce these. It's like self-authentication of records. Yeah. So Design Rhythm says Dylan was on Instagram while Bethany was calling 911. I wonder if she was doing that to message. My theory, I'm wondering if she was messaging roommates instead of calling or texting them, which she had already tried. Maybe she was trying to message them. That's my theory. So here's an Under Armour balaclava. And this is the black one. I feel like it's kind of hard to see, but would that be kind of like a weird looking ski mask? I have no idea if this is what they wanna if what this is what he purchased from Under Armour or not, but she said it wasn't like a rectangular one or whatever. But look, there's that, like, opening. It's just something I thought about when I saw that in the documents. But there's one that's black. So that was my thought. Well, apparently this is a balaclava. I'm sure there are other different kinds of balaclavas, but this is one that I found online. Like, how would you even wear that and why? It says adult cold gear infrared. Maybe you wear that if it's like super cold out and you're jogging or something. I don't know. So, let's go back now to the bushy eyebrows. So this is what I'm wondering, if this is what they're discussing. So let's get back to the bushy eyebrows stuff from DM. So they basically lay out a lot of what DM told the detectives. So they asked her, they asked her again about the face coverings. They showed her a picture of a balaclava. And in response, in addressing whether she could see the male's mouth, DM stated no. And I don't remember if I saw it. Like, I don't remember if I saw his nose, but I know I saw eyebrows, and I don't remember his eyes. I just feel like I can see eyebrows, but I mean, that could be it. I mean, that would make sense why the forehead was covered and this part of his face was covered. So she's obviously gesturing, she's saying this part of his face and that part, blah, blah, blah. So she's saying the forehead was covered and whatever else part of his face was covered. She couldn't see his mouth. She doesn't remember if she saw his nose, but she could see his eyes. Look at that. And his eyes and his eyebrows. So maybe I need to order a balaclava. The investigators inquired if DM could provide a composite for an artist. She responded, no, I don't remember what his eyes look like. I don't remember what his nose looked like. I just remember eyebrows. I don't know exactly what the eyebrows looked like at all, really. I just remember thinking like eyebrows. Yeah, bushy, but that's all. Like, I don't remember the shape. I don't remember like the color. I just remember like bushy eyebrows. That's the only thing I can remember. So they interview her again. They go back 18 days later. This is on December 1st. DM was interviewed by forensic interviewer Erin Williamson. DM gave a detailed accounting of what she did on Saturday, November 12th, until she went to bed on Sunday, November 13th. Previous interviews, she said she went to bed at like 3:20 a.m. Awoke at 4 a.m. She reported she heard a man's voice. It was not Ethan's. It was like, it's okay, I'm going to help you. She saw an all black figure about my height, maybe a few inches taller, skinny build, wearing a mask. DM described, I don't remember if it was just like one eyebrow or two, but it was just like this bushy eyebrow. DM texted BF, there's a guy in all black. Again, DM described the ski mask. I couldn't see any of his hair, but I remember just like seeing like, it was like almost rectangular, not the circle ones. It was rectangular because I remember seeing like, just like, I don't know how to explain it. Just seeing like this, maybe I'd be able to see like a cross, but I don't remember seeing his eyes, but I feel like his eyes were there. I could just see like an eyebrow. I feel like that's how I know he saw me because I could see his eyebrow. Like if I can see his eyebrow, he can see me. From what I remember, I think it was just like walking past that little wall and going towards the kitchen. And I don't know, like, I just remember seeing an eyebrow. I don't know why I just see one. It was just like one bushy eyebrow. I don't remember the color, like the full shape. I just remember it being bushy. So I'm thinking she's talking about the little wall, and I'm trying to like visualize where this is. So if this man in black is coming from Xana's room, I feel like I need to pull up a diagram or something. The little wall, is she talking about the half wall where there's in the living room where it goes down the steps, and then her bedroom's here. Actually, Gray Hughes, I interviewed him last weekend when the 911 call came out, and I have that video. He did like a little tour. So maybe I'll pull that up really quickly. We can look at that. He kind of took us through the house. Here, let me pull that up. Yeah, remember to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you're watching on replay, thank you so much.
All about the
Audio has been released. Okay. So he has these like really cool things where he can take so Gray Hughes has all these cool things where he can take people, or he has these 3D model things that he does digitally. So let's look at this. So he took me like on a little tour through the house. So that's the kitchen. He went kind of fast though. I was like, dude, that's like really fast. Let me slow down the playback speed. So okay. So here's the living room and his little 3D model. And so there's the kitchen. There's the sliding glass door. But he's going to go back. Now I'm getting kind of dizzy. Okay. So there's the living room. And he's saying basically that the way he reads it, the killer, like Xana's bedroom would have been back over here, and the killer would have walked this way. To go out of the kitchen. And there's DM's room right there. So she would have opened her door, and this is where she would have been standing to possibly see that person as they went that way. Because these are the stairs going up to Maddie and Kaylee's room on the 3rd floor. So there's DM. So the kitchen would have been there. So let me try to go back to where he told me Xana's room was. And we got a commercial. Okay. So there's a little half wall, and there's probably like actually a photograph inside the house that I could pull up. And I'll probably do that for you the next time we talk. Okay, so now he's kind of coming out of Xana. So I think he means that's Xana's room right there. Let's see what he's saying. Person, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so that's the wall right there. And then if you exit that room, you're going back into the living room. And then right here on the left is, this is Dylan Mortensen right there. So that's probably where she was standing.
So that's where he would have seen her and then turned that way to go out of the kitchen.
This is Bryan Kohberger, or I guess we could say the guy that's in the house. I believe it's him.
So anyway, I just thought that
like
was
he's walking by right here, and he saw her, but then turned right and went into the kitchen. I'll show you that, but I actually go into the room.
He would have seen. She would have maybe been standing eye to eye. Oh, thank you so much. Beautiful Messy Ball DM'd me some images of different balaclavas. He has some really good Tayo toys. I hope I'm saying that right. He has some really good 3D stuff. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to the stuff about DM. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So after Bryan Kohberger is arrested on December 30th, the cops go back to DM, and they interview her again. And they ask her if she's seen a picture of Bryan Kohberger, and she said, yeah, she looked him up when she found out. And regarding what picture she saw, she said, I've seen the mugshot, the one with the vest thing, I think. And that was the green Pennsylvania mugshot, the green suicide vest thing. She said the interviewer asked, this Bryan Kohberger, the person that you saw in this mugshot, is this the person you saw in your house? She said, I have no clue. From what I remember, I just remember seeing this figure that was like not fat, obviously, but more of like the skinnier tone build and some mask on. I don't know what the mask exactly was, but when I thought about it, it was just like covering here and here. I don't know if it was covering his mouth, his nose, or below his mouth and nose. I just remember knowing that he was white, but I didn't know how he was white. I just knew he was. And this knowing there's like, I knew he had looked at me because of the bushy eyebrow. That's all I remember. But I have no idea what he looked like. I don't like when I looked at the picture, nothing came back to me at all. So that like, I don't know. I feel like if I saw that, my mind would be like, oh yeah, that's him. But I don't remember at all. She said, all I remember, but I don't remember big nose at all, like at all. That's like, all I remember is like some bushy eyebrow and all black and some sort of mask, but it wasn't like one of those circle ski masks. That's all I remember. So it wasn't like this. That's not what she remembered. So let's go down, or let's go look now, because there's a lot more that she said, but it's all pretty much the same. Eric the Great says one of the girls have 3 different DNA under her nails and none match Bryan. Yeah, the state's saying that it's inconclusive as far as the result goes to Bryan Kohberger, but the calculation is a very low likelihood ratio for Bryan Kohberger. There's some new documents that came out regarding whose DNA was found under, or I'm sorry, there's new documents that have come out regarding the likelihood ratios of the people whose DNA was tested under Maddie's nails. Yeah, Design Rhythm says private labs said the DNA excluded Bryan. That's correct. The defense found a lab that used a different calculation and excluded Bryan Kohberger as a possible contributor. There's a new document, Beautiful Messy Ball. There's the state says, the state's DNA people said he couldn't be excluded, but the likelihood ratio for Kohberger was very low, like pretty low. The lowest of all the people it looked like that they put in there. There's a new document. And then there's another document from the defense. The defense's DNA lab said that Bryan Kohberger was excluded as a contributor to the DNA under Maddie Mogen's fingernails. So there are 2 competing opinions. One's inconclusive. One is he's excluded. So that's up to the jury to decide which one to give more weight to. So the state is saying DM is reliable. She should be allowed to testify about what she saw. It's her personal knowledge. She's used this description about this bushy eyebrow like 3 times. Tayo Toys says they say the eyebrows are the window to the soul. All right. So the state says, okay. Well, here, Beautiful Musty Ball says, just because the DNA under her nail wasn't his doesn't mean he wasn't the perp either. You can get DNA on your nails all kinds of ways. Thank you very much. I've been saying this since this whole thing came up. Like, people are like, oh, there's DNA under her nails. Oh, 3 people. It means very little. I mean, if this was like one person's DNA under her nails and it looked like she had fought, and we don't know if Maddie potentially tried to fight off an attacker. We just don't know that. And DM is saying this person in all black, head to toe black. I mean, would you even get that person's DNA on you anyway? But if this was like some type of attack where somebody had tried to fight and you found, it was like scratching that you literally had somebody's DNA under your nails, that would be one thing. They were out at a bar all night long. They're college kids hanging out at a bar. They were really intoxicated. I mean, they could have been touching any number of things, talking to whomever. You're telling me that, they could have Petri dishes under their nails. I mean, you could have somebody's DNA under your fingernails just from going up and hugging somebody, patting somebody on the back. They were at the grub truck. It could be any number of things. So I'm not getting all up in the air about these DNA profiles under Maddie's nails. I mean, I wonder, I've been in my house working all day. If I went out, hung out somewhere, wasn't like I'm a fastidious hand washer, but if I were just out hanging out in a public place all day, talking to people, whatever, what would you find under my nails if you did a fingernail scraping at the end of the day? I don't know. So the state, and to back up their stuff, to say DM is reliable, this is what they do. They include a photo, and I'm sure you've all have seen this because this was the big headline that came out of this. Sorry, guys, I had to plug in my laptop. This photo, they include this photo, this big selfie, in their filing, and they say, look, this photo, Bryan Kohberger, we pulled this off of his phone. It was taken at 10:31 a.m. on November 13th, 6 hours after the homicides were committed. And it's a selfie of him, giving the thumbs up. This is a picture of him on the day of the murders. And they want to show this to the jury because they pulled it off his phone. And they say the jury can decide whether or not those are bushy eyebrows and whether this backs up DM's claim. Now, I mean, this raises a lot of questions. Why was he doing this? Was he somebody who took a lot of selfies? I mean, he's been described as somebody who didn't know a lot of people. Did he take this photo and send it to somebody? Or was this just something that he took for himself? We don't know. We have no idea. But what's interesting, I find this interesting, this shirt. Do you guys know why I'm interested in this shirt and why I find it interesting? Anybody want to venture to guess? Yeah, Mr. Popinski says the guy you had on Crime Fix made a good point about this photo. Doesn't really mean much from a legal standpoint. Yeah, I agree. But we need to know more about it. Actually, we need to know more about the context. We need to know, did he send this to anybody? We need to know, was he texting anybody? Is Bryan Kohberger somebody who takes a lot of selfies? We don't know. Was he going somewhere? Did he take this photo 10:31 a.m. on a Sunday. Did he take this photo? Did somebody text Bryan Kohberger and say, "Hey, dude, we're going to lunch. We're doing the study group. We're doing this. We're doing that. Are you going to come with us?" And he's like, and he takes a selfie and he's like, "Yeah, here I'm on my way. I'm going to meet up with you guys. I'll be there in 20 minutes." Like, that's that. If that was something like that, that's context is important, right? But they're saying, look, here's a photo of him the morning after this happened. Tayo Toys is always fun in this chat. So yeah. And then somebody actually, and before I really go into this, somebody messaged me. This would be Bryan Kohberger's left hand with the thumb, right? Somebody messaged me from the UK at work. Somebody emailed me. Very nice person, a former nurse from the UK emailed me about Bryan Kohberger's hand. And this former nurse was telling me things that they saw on the hand that they thought were interesting. And so I will look into this a little more closely to see what I see. But this person said they thought they saw some bruising or something, but I can't tell from this photo. I'd have to look more closely at it. So I thought that was interesting. But what I find interesting about this shirt is that on the Instagram account that I found the day that he was arrested, that everybody, the Instagram account that said Bryan Kohberger, Bryan Christopher, whatever it said, it's in my phone somewhere, all the screen grabs I took of it. You know, the one that followed Maddie and Xana and Kaylee, he was wearing that same shirt, I believe, if I remember correctly, with a tie. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I believe that's the same exact shirt. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. So the state's saying, look, the jury can see a photo of Bryan Kohberger from that day, 6 hours afterwards, and they can decide whether or not those are bushy eyebrows. Kay has Shelty says, on the back of his hand near first knuckle, thumb and wrist. Yeah, I mean, it could be a shadow. I just don't know. And we don't even know if the guy's left-handed. That's the left hand. So I would have to look. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it could be swollen, but I also don't know what his hands look like. That's another thing. Oh, I think we have the guest is joining. Look who it is. It's Philip Dubé joining me. Thank you so much for coming on, Philip.
Thank you.
Can
It
you
took
hear
me
me?
forever to get here. I can't. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I don't know if I can hear you, Philip. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Oh,
Did you
yeah,
mute
there you
me?
are. Hi, how are you?
Okay. I'm good. It took me forever to get here. I'm in La Jolla and the traffic was hideous. I have never even on a Friday during rush hour experienced such heavy traffic. There were 3 or 4 accidents on the way. So I apologize. Congratulations on the new channel. Lots of
Oh,
mazel,
well,
as
thank
we
you.
say. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So,
Sure.
Philip, it's interesting. So I had asked Philip Dubé to come on and join. I thought that would be fun to have somebody come on, and he got stuck in traffic. But he's at some really cool place, which is amazing. But Philip, I won't keep you long. Melissa Dotson says, Philip. So Philip, you have a fan in here. How exciting, right?
Wow. Okay. Never have enough. Never have enough. So thank you. Okay.
So Philip, let's talk really briefly about this, about DM and the eyebrows. And I was just reading some of the motion to them about
Sure.
DM and her description of the bushy eyebrows. And now we're looking at the selfie. And the selfie, you know, we talked yesterday how, you know, context is important. And I was just saying, you know, we don't know We don't know if he's an avid selfie taker. We don't know if he was going to study group and somebody like was like, "Hey dude, you coming?" And he's like, "Yeah, here I am." And he sends the picture off. Like we don't know, but the state is saying, "Look, this is from 6 hours after the homicides. We want to show this to the jury and the jury can decide if he has bushy eyebrows."
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I don't know the relevance of it. But I think in order for them to do that, they need to, I forget the young lady's name, the witness who survived and identified him as having bushy eyebrows. What was her name? Dylan? What
Yeah,
was it?
Dylan is her name. Yeah.
Dylan. Okay. You need to authenticate those brows by showing this photo to her. Under the rules of evidence, you can't just mark and introduce anything you feel like at a jury trial. There has to be some type of legal foundation set for it. Otherwise, you're putting improper material before the jury, and there's a natural inclination just to accept everything as gospel and as true. If she cannot, outside the presence of the jury, authenticate that photo, it should not come in. Because if you really think about it, what does it prove aside from that? What? That he may or may not be photogenic, or that he's, I think we talked about this one time before where he kind of looks with his pasty, washed out complexion like someone who's saying, "Catch me if you can," from that DiCaprio movie where he plays a bank robber working with the FBI trying to catch other bank robbers. He knew how to profile them, how to find them, etc. And that's what he kind of looks like in this photo. But in terms of 4 homicides, it doesn't prove it, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, and so that's the thing. So she said she couldn't do a composite sketch after the homicides were committed. She wasn't able to do that. All she could remember was a guy in all black and a bushy eyebrow or bushy eyebrows, and it was a weird ski mask. She couldn't even, after she told the cops, it's in the motion, that after he was arrested, she went online and looked at his mugshot, the Pennsylvania mugshot with the green suicide turtle suit on. And she said, she didn't recognize him. So she couldn't identify him from that. So, I mean, is she supposed to really be able to look at this picture and be like, yes, that was the eyebrow?
Well, look, obviously, as an attorney, I look at everything from a legal standpoint, not from a social one and not from a true crime and a practical one. Look, at the end of the day, a court has to find that there is independent reliability to the identification. Typically, we see it in the law enforcement context where you have somebody out in the field who just committed a crime and they've apprehended him. He's in handcuffs. They bring a victim or a witness right to the scene where they're holding the person, and they can say yes or no, that's the guy. We also see it where the police show a photo array. Sometimes we call it a 6-pack of photos. And then you ask the victim or the witness if they can ID the person. Then, of course, we have the live lineups where they literally usher out 6, 7 people to see if they can pick them out of the lineup. You don't have that here. What you have is a civilian who's just being interviewed, who may have been influenced by photos and artwork in her bedroom with men having bushy eyebrows, wherever that fixation may come from, why somebody would feel the need to fill their room with that type of art. That's a whole separate pathology. But then you have time from that point on for her to think about it, ruminate over it, maybe even see this selfie online, see other unrelated photos or maybe clips of him in the news or in court, and then voila, what do you have? Another ID. Oh yeah, those are the brows. Well, can we really say that her ID is sufficiently reliable? And that's the test. And I could see a judge shutting it down maybe, or on the other hand, allowing it in, but allowing a jury to decide what value, if any, to give it. And certainly Dylan would be subject to a rigorous cross-examination on those points.
So I think that they have to be very gentle with DM, because when I read her comments, she just sounds like a young college kid who's traumatized. When I read her interview and how she talks.
Well,
And so,
going easy and soft on a witness on cross is an examination style. It's not necessarily a legal requirement. I mean,
yeah.
certainly you don't want to come off looking like a bully or an a-hole, for lack of a better term, to the jury. She's been traumatized enough. She's having to testify. She certainly doesn't want to be there. And chances are she was compelled to be there because she got a subpoena. So you want to go easy on her independent of the trauma. You just want to not make a bad impression with the jury. But I would go hard on her. Listen, she had a night of partying. I don't know if she had just come off a bender from too much drinking, and God only knows if they smoked. But I think a jury should know if at the time she's quote unquote perceived a person wearing a mask with bushy eyebrows, if she was high as a kite. And that will impact any identification. Remember, this guy's on trial for his life. We're not talking about maybe a year in the county jail or maybe even several years behind bars. He's looking at the wall, as we say, meaning the firing squad. So I think they need to be extra cautious about how they proceed, and so should the judge, frankly. Juries historically and statistically put a lot of weight on identifications. And anything that you can do to poke holes in the validity, the suggestibility, and the reliability of an identification, frankly, is the job of defense counsel. That's what we do. So I think there's a lot of preliminary matters and showings that need to occur before this photo gets before a jury.
So just off topic a little bit, and somebody else mentioned this to me, Philip. So this is, people are asking, Paige Silva's asking, is this the Philip that Nancy Grace so rudely cut off?
Can I just tell you something? And I really mean this. I have never met Nancy in person. We've only spoken, and obviously when we're on air, but do you know, off camera, and I really mean this, she is a lovely, wonderful, delightful lady. She truly is. But when it's lights, camera, action, she's on brand. That's her shtick. She loves to tear apart and attack defense lawyers and protect victims, victim advocacy, victims' rights. But when she's on camera, that is sort of her role, if you will, to go after defense attorneys and not undermine the strength of a prosecution's case. But off the record, she's actually very friendly and very warm and welcoming to the defense bar. So I'm not at all offended by it. It's TV, it's Hollywood, it's entertainment, and frankly, it sells, you know? So
obviously it does. Lotus says, Nancy Grace, we need you to yell at Philip now. So Nancy Grace is not here. And I won't yell at Philip. I might get a little snarky with him.
No, it's all good.
So, well, Philip, let's go now to, I'm going to take the selfie down.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can go hard at DM without being like, without screaming at her. And I think that they will show, like, I really want to see the room full of sketches of eyebrows or whatever that she drew. Her, room, she's got all these things up. And then another thing too, like, why, if she's a good sketcher, have her sketch this person in black that she saw in the eyebrow. Like, I want to, like, why wouldn't they just have her draw it?
Well, first of all, remember, she is not a composite sketch artist. She is there as supposedly as a percipient witness. I think it could create a conflict if you use her as both a witness and a composite sketch artist, because it looks like she's looking for police leads to try to find somebody out in the field, out and about, that matches that description. And I think that goes beyond her role as a percipient or as a fact witness. It's not to say it's illegal, but I think it looks a little hinky. That's how it would come off to a jury, in my opinion, anyway. I
just imagine if she's a good sketcher or a good drawer or whatever, like, I'd want to be like, okay, well, you've drawn all these eyebrows all over your room. Like, if I'm the cop, I'd be like, okay, so you draw all this stuff. Would you feel like you could draw what you saw? You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm thinking like, but maybe that would be weird. I don't know. You're the defense attorney. You know how these things work.
Well, I think for purposes of an identification, I don't think it's proper to use a sketch. I think the purpose of a composite sketch is to get leads so that police can go and interview, investigate individuals, but to just draw somebody and, say, oh, I think it looks like this guy. This is what my recollection is based on. I think it leads to misidentifications. And if you recall, we saw shades of this in the Richard Allen case, the guy accused of the Delphi murders in Indiana. Remember how there were composites or sketches out there trying to figure out who, if anyone, could have done the murders? And I believe the prosecution the defense wanted those sketches and evidence because in their view, it didn't even look like Richard Allen. And the judge shut it down. And the reason why is that it's not really definitive evidence of who the person was. It's just the opinion of somebody for purposes of garnering leads. That's all. So it has a specific purpose in the forensic world. And I think if you try to overlap the two, you could end up with a misidentification, frankly, and a wrongful conviction.
All right, let's talk briefly, and then I'm going to wrap this up about the sheath. We talked earlier about this. Your thoughts as a defense attorney on the K-bar knife sheath and sharpener and knife being purchased on Amazon in March of 2022. The homicides are in November of 2022. So the state's going to say he took this thing cross country and carried out these homicides, and then he went back searching again for another sheath and knife. As a defense attorney, his DNA, they say, is on this. How do you explain that? Because I'm assuming they haven't found I'm assuming the state, that they've not recovered his K-bar knife and sheath.
Well, no, they have the sheath. Remember, because they found
I'm sorry, his knife. I apologize.
Right.
I misspoke.
No.
They have not recovered his K-bar knife. And he's going to say that's not his sheath, I would assume. Or that somebody stole it or he sold it to somebody.
Well, here's the thing. If we really think about it, first of all, I'm not aware of any evidence that the K-bar knife and sheath or scabbard, whatever it was in, was ever even delivered to him. What do you have to show in Amazon records, in evidence that it was ever even delivered? But let's assume they have it. Let's assume they have a delivery receipt. And you know how sometimes Amazon will take a photo of the envelope at your door to show that it was actually delivered? It kind of protects the delivery guy in case they're accused of not properly delivering it. But let's assume they have it, okay? You have a significant period of time between when it was delivered and the time of the homicide to say that he in fact delivered the coup de grace on those 4 students. All it proves at most is that he touched a sheath. It in no way, shape, or form proves that he in fact stabbed up these kids. There's no proof of it anywhere, none. If they, for example, would have found one of the kids' blood in his car, on his clothes, on the shower curtains, maybe in the drain at his apartment, in the bathroom, then he's toast. He's done. But all you have right now at most is evidence of presence. So where does that leave the defense? Well, remember what else they have. They have somebody else's blood on the staircase rail. So you have a third-party donor. You have yet another person's blood on a glove found outside the scene, okay? And then you have somebody who, by all accounts, was probably never even in that property. When you look at the timeline, there was a 16-minute period where he would have pulled up in his car, got into a strange home that had a weird configuration with rooms all over the place, would have to know who's behind the door in each room, do the deed, go to each room, make it back down the stairs, into the car, and out of there in 16 minutes. I find it kind of confounding, frankly. It sounds like it would have to be somebody who is familiar with the layout of the house, of the property, or at a minimum, with the occupants of the place, and maybe had conversations with people and got some type of direction as to where everybody might be, particularly at that hour. Otherwise, I don't see how you can pull it off in 16 minutes. It's just far too gruesome, far too sophisticated, and far too involved to get it done that quickly. The other thing is, too, when you really consider all his credentials in criminology, you would think that he would know better than to leave behind the instrumentality of the crime, namely the sheath. Who in their right mind would leave that behind? It doesn't make sense. If he was all that skilled and educated in forensics and criminology, it would have never gone down like that. That would be the argument. Now, on the other hand, it could just be that he knew exactly where to go. He was just sloppy, left it behind, and never thought in a million years that his DNA would ever be found on a snap, and that he underestimated law enforcement's abilities and resourcefulness in, despite not finding him in CODIS, the combined DNA index across all law enforcement data banks, but that used investigative genetic genealogy. He really underestimated the aptitude, if you will, of law enforcement. So now it's in the hands of a jury, frankly.
Well, and also too, I think we have to think about the potential that he didn't go in there, the killer, whether it was Bryan Kohberger or somebody else, didn't go in there targeting 4 people. Kaylee wasn't really supposed to be there or had moved out. I just think, going into a house like that, I don't think the killer went in there targeting 4 people. I think the plan was gummed up. Something went, sideways in the mind of the killer. And I don't think, targeting 4 people out of 6 doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. And you never know. It is very possible that all of the tenants or all the roommates in that house were potential targets, or maybe only one person was sort of the object of his ire and his anger and his, criminal enterprise, if you will. But by the same token, remember what we had. You have 2 victims, I can't remember their names, that were found in one bed together.
Kaylee and Maddie.
Well, Kaylee and Maddie, both of their throats slit. And then you have the other roommate, the male, who was in his own room, in his own bed, behind a closed door. And then you have the 4th roommate in her own room, behind a closed door. Why would a killer methodically go after each one of them, sort of successfully, if you will, in rapid succession? It would be one thing if there was evidence that one of them happened to get up and walk in on it, and maybe to prevent any detection or apprehension, he pursued the 3rd or the 4th to end their life and their ability to be a witness. That I understand. But this killer methodically went behind 3 different doors to kill these people. It was very sophisticated. Honestly, I think it was. And to suggest that it had to have been this lone wolf, Bryan Kohberger, within 16 minutes, I think there's reasonable doubt. Now, on the other hand, I think what it lends to is that maybe more than one person was in on it. And if the theory then changes that it was sort of a conspiracy with 2 or more, then I think there's a more reasonable argument to be made that you can really dice and slice 4 people in 16 minutes. But I don't think it can be done that quickly by one person unless you truly are some type of expert in knives and K-bars and slicing and dicing people. And I don't believe that that's in his past, not that I'm aware of anyway. You would have to have somebody with such military precision going in there, almost like a trained Navy SEAL, to know exactly what they're doing, to slither in and out in just short order and get the job done. And I don't think that's Bryan Kohberger, and I've never met the young man. So either he's innocent, or more than one person was in on it, or, a combination. It could be a combination.
Or what if you have a bunch of, drunk college kids who are going to bed at 4 a.m. or already in bed? Maddie may have already been asleep. There's been talk that Kaylee may have been awakened. So if you're already asleep, and Ethan may have already been asleep, it sounds like, then it doesn't take as much to kill somebody who's inebriated and asleep.
That's true, because first of all, there's no resistance.
Right.
There's nobody putting up a fight or a struggle.
We know Xana
nothing
fought
like
back.
that. Yeah.
And Kaylee's parents have said she fought back.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So, I mean, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, we have a lot more to learn for trial, but we're actually gonna, Philip, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been amazing, but I actually we're gonna wrap it up now, but I appreciate you coming on. I hope you'll come back another time.
Oh, please, just
It was
holla, as we say, holla, you know?
holla.
Okay, okay.
And people were remarking too, you have fabulous eyebrows. We've been talking so much about eyebrows.
Oh, thank you. Well, they're natural, I must say. So
Yeah,
they're really
I
mine,
mine
you
used
know?
to be much bigger,
Yeah.
but no, I appreciate you coming on. It was so good
Oh,
to see you. Thank you so much. And
take
we're gonna
care.
wrap this
Take care.
whole thing up.
And lots of mazel with the channel, okay? I wish you lots of
Thank
clicks,
you.
lots of views, and lots of subscribers. Take care.
Yes. Yes, thank you. All
All
right, I'll
right. Be
talk to you
well.
soon.
Bye
See
now.
ya. All right, everybody. Well, I'm going to wrap this up from here. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm working on the sign off. Somebody suggested one to me and I may try it another time. So I don't know if I'll try it tonight, but thanks so much for joining me tonight. And I'll give the sign off a try another time. Remember to like and subscribe, share, tell all your friends. And we have a lot more to cover. So we'll do this another night, another time, maybe this weekend sometime. So thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.